In the early 1800s, fur traders and trappers regularly traveled from Missouri to what is now Oregon on foot or by horse. This is a way that an average man could work to earn money without being an indentured servant or hired laborer. This was also a way of infiltrating land owned by Mexico and native tribes with quote-unquote settlers in preparation for the biggest property theft in recorded history. Knowing how to use a knife, a gun, and farmer's almanac were the basic skills needed to be successful. Knowing which native tribes were friendly or gullible was also a key talent needed for survival along the way. Eventually, a trail was mapped for repeated use that made the annual journey less dangerous and more accessible via wagon trains. More settlers per trip, baby. By 1836, this 2,000-mile long path was documented in travel manuals and referred to as the Oregon Trail. After seeing a printed description of California, George and Jacob Donner, two Illinois farmers, decided to grasp for their piece of the land of milk and honey. They sold their farms in what is now Springfield, Illinois, and took out an ad to rustle up some strong men to facilitate their cross-country trek to the Promised Land. In the spring of 1846, the Donner family joined with Reed family and had 32 people in their group made up of family members and hired hands. They had 9 wagons loaded with everything they could carry. The trip would cover an average of 15 miles per day and take 4 to 6 months. Side note, Google Maps shows a person walking that route in 810 hours today. At 8 hours a day, that would take 102 days or 3.4 months, so that checks out. There were a total of 500 wagons in the group the Donners were following to California. When they got close to the border of what is now Nevada, the Donner Reed party was convinced to take a shortcut they saw in Lansford Hastings' Guide by Lansford Hastings himself and the guy who owned a trading post along the quote-unquote shortcut named Jim Bridger. Jim Bridger wanted more people to stop at his trading post, which was located on the shortcut, so he could make some cash. Hastings offered to meet the Donner group and guide them through the shortcut that was actually 120 miles longer than the regular route once they met at Black Forks, Wyoming. By the time the Donner Reed party got to Black Forks, Hastings had already left to help another group. There were 87 people following the shortcut path. They got bogged down crossing the Rocky Mountains and had to start eating their cattle and abandoning all but the most needed survival gear. The group ended up passing through the Great Basin south of the Salt Lake and eventually got stuck north of Lake Tahoe in what is now Truckee, California. The delay in travel took them from spring to winter before they finished their journey. Winter had set in and it snowed a lot that year. They started freezing, illness set in, then came the starving, fighting, lying, and stealing, and before you knew it, they were eating each other to survive. When word got out, a few people from the other wagons that had made it through tried to come back and rescue them, but only 48 people out of the 87 would survive this ordeal. This story is horrible on so many levels. Several books and movies have been written and filmed about it. There is so much evil packed into one small group of people over such a short period of time. You could write an encyclopedia on just this topic alone. 2 Native American guides employed by John Sutter, Miwok tribal men from the Cosumnes River area, were known by their Catholic conversion names, Luis and Salvador. Once they were stranded and starving at Lake Truckee, the party sent out a group of 15 people to get help. The group, later known as the Forlorn Hope, included the 2 native Miwok men, Salvador and Luis. As the expedition continued to hike through the snowy mountains, they resorted to cannibalism as people started to die off. Salvador and Luis refused to participate in the cannibalism and ran away in fear that they would be eaten next. They ended up being the only 2 members of the Donner Reed party intentionally murdered for food. Though the murder was not kept secret, Kristen Johnson, a storyteller, notes that Foster, the guy who shot the two Native American men, was not greatly blamed for it and spent the rest of his life without being troubled by the authorities. This can be attributed to the general attitude as expressed by someone named Louis Petrinovich of the time that the lives of Native Americans seemed to matter little. That must be when America was great. Not much has changed if you ask me, so I'll head back to the present now. You can always find books and films on this topic. I recommend you go visit the site in Truckee. They have an excellent history museum, monuments, and a park that commemorates the tragedy. Speaking of which,